Good morning, Colorado. You are listening to the Daily Sun Up. It's a conversation with the Colorado Sun. I'm team editor David Krause. Before we jump into today's conversation, here is a quick message from our sponsor.
Support comes from Credit Union of Colorado, proud to call Colorado home for more than 90 years. They're a local institution with a track record of showing up for the community and putting people first. Credit Union of Colorado. Honestly good. Learn more at honestlygood.org. Ready for your next adventure? SCP Wildfree Colorado Springs Hotel is a reimagined vintage motel and base camp for those who wander with purpose and return with stories. Dog-friendly, planet-conscious, and rooted in our Colorado community. Explore SCP Wildfree Colorado Springs Hotel and book your unforgettable summer travel today at scphotel.com/Colorado Springs. You deserve a bank that fits your lifestyle, with financial services delivered by people who truly understand your community. From the Western Slope to the Front Range, Alpine Bank is proud to be Colorado's community bank. Learn more at alpinebank.com.
Now, back to the show. Good Monday, everyone, and thanks for starting your week with us. This is David Krause, and today, freelance reporter Betsy Welch, who is based in the Roaring Fork Valley, joins me to talk about the increase in bear activity around the Colorado High Country this summer, and especially in the Aspen area. Hey there, Betsy. Thanks for jumping on the podcast.
Happy to be here.
All right, Betsy, let's jump in. As you wrote, bear encounters in Aspen and Mountain Town certainly aren't breaking news, but the increase this summer is pretty staggering. Before we get into the why, can you kind of give us a breakdown of the uptick in the numbers for this year already?
Just yesterday, Colorado Parks and Wildlife issued an updated number of bear sightings, and we are at 6,121 reports already this year. That's nearly double the total number of reports of bear encounters from 2025. So that's pretty significant. I think the other significant point is that a lot of this bear activity started a lot earlier this year. I think here in Aspen, the wildlife folks had their first call in March, which is, as you know, in Colorado, March is peak ski season. So what was going on? I think that's what we're about to talk about next.
Yeah, we've seen through the years the ups and downs in bear activity, but talk more, Betsy, about the reasons why we're seeing such an increase this summer.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you've lived up here. I live here. Bear sightings are a part of every summer here. But then it's truly significant. And, you know, I'm sure you've had friends sending around videos and you've seen on social media, we've got bears lollygagging in the rivers in Boulder, and here they're breaking into restaurants. And that's really because it's not because they want to be around humans or to be busting into Aspen restaurants. They are struggling with a very low food year, natural food sources. And that is due to the extreme drought we're in. You know, I guess you could say it even started this winter when we had such a low snowpack. So that was the first thing. Now we've had an extremely dry spring and extremely dry summer. So the food sources that bears rely upon are also struggling. So those are things like service berries and choke cherries. Coming into fall, that will mean no acorns, and that's a huge fall food source for bears. So the drought has basically wrought havoc on the bears' food sources. We've also, had a lot of fire this summer, and fire can also burn food sources. It also pushes bears out of their native habitat. So, yeah, it's not been great in the wild for bears this summer or even, this winter, this spring.
Aspen always seems like a hotbed for bear activity, at least the 7 years that I lived up there. The problem certainly isn't limited, though, to Aspen. We've seen bears along the high country. We've seen even some getting into front range towns. I actually 2 weeks ago was coming out of Left Hand Canyon just north of Boulder. And right before we got on 36, had to slow down for a bear crossing the road. So we know they're everywhere. You also talked, Betsy, with some folks in the Durango area. What have they seen, and how are officials in southwestern Colorado dealing with bears this summer?
Yeah, down there, I mean, similar to here, Durango, I mean, you could say it's kind of situated similarly to Aspen and to a lot of our mountain communities in Colorado. We are up against wildlands, you know. Durango sits in the Animas Valley. There's all sorts of waterways and, you know, creeks, rivers coming into town, same with Aspen. So those are essentially, you know, bear highways. In a normal year, a bear might come to town, maybe poke around, but you know, go back to the woods, where hopefully they do have natural foods. And what's happening this year is because there isn't food to go back to, they're spending more time in town, they're coming back more frequently. Durango's had a huge uptick. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they, you know, like Aspen, have tons of bear encounters. And their CPW folks have a lot of the same concerns that officials have all over the state, which is that what could be one, you know, oops, we left the hummingbird feeder out, just how consequential that is in a year like this year, because that can attract a bear, and a hungry bear is going to then look for the dog food and look for the trash, and eventually maybe open the sliding glass door and come in. And that has happened in Durango. I had a friend, you know, send a Facebook post of a bear that broke into not one, but two houses. And I guess someone had to whack it on the head with a frying pan. So I think the big issue is, yes, we've all heard the stories of bears coming into town, knocking over trash. Best case, it kind of stops there and the bears go back. But a year like this year, where they are hungry and not finding their food in the woods, they're going to come back, they're going to stay, and eventually they're going to get less wary of humans. And yeah, I don't even want to go there.
Yeah, that's the big concern. I think a lot of times is once they find that source, then they're just going to keep coming back. The lack of a natural food source is the issue right now. As summer wanes, the food sources change, like you kind of mentioned, Betsy. What are some of the food source issues as the season changes, and what are the concerns really for CPW and bears really amp up, as you mentioned, feeding for the next few months before they go into hibernation?
Yeah, so bears, you know, they eat seasonally. In the spring, when they come out of the den, they're focusing on, you know, the tender grasses and flowers and what's available. As they move through summer, then we have flowers becoming berries, seeds, things like that, other grasses, more established plants. And then as we start to transition to fall, they are looking for more calories, so more calorie dense things like acorns and nuts. This is because they start to go into what's called hyperphagia, which basically means like extreme appetite and extreme hunger. And I think they're consuming up to 20,000 calories a day, which I have to say I find so fascinating that you can consume 20,000 calories of nuts, berries, grasses, etc. Yeah, that's amazing. But this year, unfortunately, they are likely supplementing that caloric intake with, you know, stuff they shouldn't be eating, like birdseed and pet food and trash. Yeah, so as John Livingston down in Durango told me, the gamble oak, which produces acorns, that is a huge bear food source in the fall. He says there's no acorns on those trees. And that is very concerning, because these bears that are being driven by this extreme appetite, they're going to satiate it somehow. And if it's not with acorns, it's going to be with those things that are on your porch and your garage and in your car. We all know bears are very adept at getting into cars. And like you mentioned, they have great memories and they will come back, which is why we see them frequenting, you know, certain restaurants and things like that. So that's the concern, is that bears that are already in town are going to stay in town, and they're going to become even more ruthless in their quest for food as we get into the fall months.
Betsy, one of the things you reported, and I think this is, to me, part of the most alarming part of all of this, is we've seen, as you mentioned, double the amount of incidents so far this year than we saw all of last year. But the end of the summer is traditionally when we see the
Right.
most bear encounters. Talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, just last night, I went on a little trail run behind the hospital here in Aspen. And I mean, there were piles of bear scat, like cairns, like marking. And I thought, God, if I don't see one, that's nuts. And of course I did. I saw 3. And what I really noticed is that usually you do the hey bear, clap, make some noise, and they really scamper away almost immediately. Neither of the 2 bears I was hey bearing, like, they didn't go. They just like sort of looked at me, and then they looked, at the tree, and then they looked at me, and eventually they ambled off, but neither of them ran. And so that's an alarming thing, is that they're becoming more acclimated to seeing people, and they're becoming less reactive to people. And that's when what officials really don't want, which is maybe we start seeing some human bear encounters. And that's like worst case. So I guess the concern is that it's only August, it's only mid-August. And if these bears are already, I was thinking, God, are they that hungry? Like, are they so lethargic? I mean, they certainly weren't wasting away. They're cute, chubby bears. But yeah, their behavior is concerning, that the changes in their behavior because of the lack of natural food, because of them being in town, that these changes in behavior can then have pretty significant repercussions.
You wrote last week, Betsy, about a new state law that went into effect last Wednesday pertaining to bears and feeding knowingly or otherwise. Walk us through that new state law and what they hope will be the outcome.
Yeah, so this is a new House Bill 1342, which I believe was a sort of an amendment to a previous bill. And it basically, what it does is it allows CPW and other law enforcement people to ticket people who leave food or garbage or basically anything out that could attract a bear. And the difference between this new bill and the previous one is that it's a slight nuance, but it's significant. The previous bill was targeting people who intentionally left food out to attract bears, like, I don't know, some nice old lady who likes to feed the bears. But this isn't for people who are feeding bears. This is for anyone who leaves something out that could attract a bear. So it's like, you put your trash out the night before, you're liable under this new bill. And yeah, I think officials are hoping this sort of helps them crack down on that stuff. I don't think it's meant to, punish people who have a brain lapse and don't take the hummingbird feeder down. But it really illustrates just how critical the issue is. Like, we're not joking around here. It also, you don't get a warning anymore. It used to be required that you get if you were a first-time offender, I think you just got a warning. And now if you're a first-time offender, you're going to get hit with a fine. I think the maximum fine is $5,000, and that's for your second or third offense. But the fact that we have this bill, I think, just illustrates that this is a serious problem. It's it can be kind of funny when you see those clips of the bear opening the car door or like in the restaurant, but it's not funny, basically. And officials need our help in trying to address it before it gets really serious.
I think one of the intriguing parts, at least to me, knowing and having been around bears so much, I think it's really interesting that it now puts the onus on the humans, right? It used to be more about education.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like this is like, all right, we're done with that. If you're in a mountain town and you're still leaving dog food out or a bird feeder out, when knowingly, right? That's that part that you mentioned, knowingly or doing that, it's on you. And that maybe will help perhaps change people's attitudes.
Yeah, I read somewhere that human bear conflicts are really human driven. conflicts, like you're saying. And the onus is on us. And what's, I think, a little different with this summer is it's not just in places like Aspen, Durango, Boulder that have these histories of this. It's places like Fort Collins that is reporting sightings, Mesa County, places we're not thinking. These bears will travel for food. And so they're showing up in communities that might not be used to this, where you could put your trash out the night before. And I think this House bill, and hopefully the attention it gets, will help remind people everywhere that this is a problem, a statewide issue.
Betsy, appreciate you jumping on the podcast and talking out your stories a little bit more. If you haven't already, you can check out Betsy's coverage and more of our overall coverage of the Colorado Great Outdoors on our homepage and on our free Colorado Sun app. Betsy, thanks again for the bear updates. Keep your head on a swivel up there and make it a great week.
Thanks, David. Take care.
Thanks for listening. And finally, here are a few stories that you should know about today.
Blue Mesa Reservoir near Gunnison was created by the federal government to provide water storage and generate power, among other needs. The feds bought, moved, or burned small communities to make way for Blue Mesa. Sun water reporter Shannon Mullane has a look under some of Colorado's most well-known reservoirs and the sunken ruins they hide. New state laws since 2019 to help the lowest-paid workers in Colorado have given local governments more control of their minimum wage. Denver's wage will go up 2.9% to $19.84 on January 1st, while Colorado's minimum wage is increasing 55 cents to $15.71 next year. University of Denver students are connecting with residents in a nearby assisted living facility through the Perfect Pair program. The nonprofit matches younger and older adults to bridge generational gaps and provide an antidote to social isolation that often accompanies aging. Reporter Kevin Simpson looks at the growing program in this week's Colorado Sunday feature.
To read these stories and much more, visit our website, coloradosun.com. As an award-winning nonprofit news outlet, we take our mission of credible, independent journalism seriously, and you can check out our trust indicators at coloradosun.com/ethics. Our music is by the Denver-based Matt Skellinger Group. A link to their music is in our show notes, and a special thanks to Swallow Hill Music. I'm David Krause. See you next time.